and power. This is your boy Maitreya Asek, also known as Shane the Artist, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Rebellious Rhymer Podcast. That's right, family. Black conservatism without the buck dancing. Yo. So, man, this is a lot of information. I'm talking about like maybe so much so that I might have to break this up into several different episodes because the rabbit hole goes so deep when you start talking about the African slave trade and the sub-Saharan slave trade. The history goes so deep. It's mind-boggling when you get all of that information, man. And it's just so much, and it's been happening for so long. And surprise, it's still happening till this day. So I think that the issue that Black Americans of FBA had with the president of Ghana petitioning to the UN for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade is there's a lot of cleaning up that need to be done in your own house first before you come into our house wiping your feet, wiping your blood, or your muddy, it could possibly bloody too, hell, wiping your bloody and muddy boots on our carpets, okay? Claiming something that has nothing to do with your ancestors. That's why people were so upset about that. So, oh man, let's go ahead and get started, man, with this African slave trade. It's a lot to process, family, but if y'all can just work with me and work through this, and we're going to get through this. Peace and power to the family coming into the room. If anybody wants to be invited up to add to the conversation, you can either put a hand up in a comment and I can send you an invite, or just type let me in, or I think you can just jump in. I'll even, I'll take that if you jump in too. Just make sure you be respectable to the platform, okay? So let's go ahead and get started, man. It's a lot, man. But the trans-Saharan slave trade held captive over 18 million Africans, and that's still in counting because that we're talking about the trans-Saharan slave trade. So this is before the transatlantic slave trade. This was during the Arab invasion. Okay, the Arabs invaded Africa somewhere around 700 to 730 AD, somewhere around that time, right? You had African tribes warring with each other for whatever reasons, warring with each other, going at each other's heads, selling each other as slaves when they're captive. This is what was happening. Now, I know a lot of Pan-African brothers and sisters out there, they don't really like to talk about the African slave trade. And, a lot of, like I said, they don't really like to talk about it, or they're not well versed on the subject, or they kind of want to pretend like it didn't happen, okay? Or they want to ignore it altogether. But we can't ignore it, man, because ignoring all of this history, and not just history, but slavery that is happening today in the year 2026. If we ignore all of this and then allow them to come to the United States and to the UN to petition for reparations when they still have their own slavery going on in their own said nations, that's a bit of an issue. That's a bit of an issue with me personally. Y'all like my shirt? Yeah, I'm jumping off subject real quick. That's my Pharaoh, my Egypt shirt. I actually got this from Egypt, from Kemet, when we visited Kemet almost 2 years ago. Well, we're just coming back from Turkey as well. I really had enjoyed my stay there as well. I had a little promotional tour out there. Got my name out there with my music and stuff like that. But that's neither here or there. Let's go ahead and get back into this, family. This African slave trade happened in so many countries. It's hard to find an African nation that did not practice slavery amongst their own people. It's hard. Like I'm telling you, man, if you do the research yourself, it's a rabbit hole. It is a rabbit hole that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you really want to delve deep into it, you really would have to do multiple episodes or multiple podcasts to just talk about it all. I mean, I'm talking about you having ancient and modern day slavery in countries like Chad, slavery in countries like Mali, Nigeria, Sudan, the Congo, Nigeria. I mean, like I said, it's hard to find a nation that did not practice some sort of slavery, trans-Saharan slave trade, before the Europeans even got there. Now, the Europeans were operated as tribes too and was warring with each other as well. So it's not like, I believe that, within nations, you're going to have warring tribes and stuff like that. But my thing is, with the Europeans, it eventually worked out in their favor because of the conquests. And they can all agree on one thing. All of the Europeans can agree on one thing, and that's to conquer your black ass. You get what I'm saying? So, but when it comes to the tribal warfare in Africa, on the continent, it stays war. Like, there's no getting together. There's no common interest that they have. It's just going at each other's neck. And it's been like that for thousands of years until this very day. I'm not going to say all, but a lot of Africans identifies with their tribe first. First, they identify with their tribe. Then they identify with their nation and their country. Then maybe after that, they'll identify as an African. And then maybe after that, they will identify as a black man or a black woman. Or at least that's how it was back then. Now that we're moving on and black Americans are delineating, now you got, people trying to change their tune, and now all of a sudden they're black. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, so you have slavery, not just slavery in the past, but still slavery till this day, the year 2026. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. So how many slaves were moved throughout the African continent? So around estimated number was around 7 million slaves were moved throughout the African continent. Obviously a lot more. So that is about 5.2 per thousand. 5.2 people per thousand would become a slave. Forced marriages, which is also another form of slavery, right? 46% of women on the continent were married with forced marriages, oftentimes at a very young age. They get no say-so in the matter. I did stories on Somalia, where the men in Mogadishu started crying, man, and on live on the news, they were crying and protesting against the fact that the Somalian government tried to pass a law stating that if you want to marry a girl, she has to at least be 18. They cried about that. They complained about that. They said that is my right. That is the right that Allah gave us. I should be able to marry a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11, 12-year-old. They protested against. 18 is still pretty damn young, man. They still are not fully developed in the mind and stuff like that. But they fought for the legal marriage age to be under 18. And this is happening all throughout the continent. This is happening all throughout the continent, family. I mean, you can do the research for yourself. You can do the research for yourself. Okay? The thing that I don't understand about the Ghanaian president coming and petitioning reparations to the UN in the United States. which he, five-star hotels, flying in on private jets, whatever. He's the president, right? So yeah, those are the kind of incentives that he's going to have. But while he's doing all of that, his people are back in Ghana suffering right now due to this flood. This flood has been devastating to the Ghanaian community. The flood devastated Ghana. So while Ghana has been lambasted with this flood, you have your president out here playing games and laying wreaths on our ancestors' grave sites and petitioning for reparations from the U.S. government. That makes no sense, family. Ghana was actively involved in the slave trade. How are you going to be the victim and the perpetrator at the same time? And then hold your hand out and say, well, pay me for this transatlantic slave trade. When you were one of the main contributors, family, it just doesn't make no sense. It just makes absolutely no sense. Why is Ghana charging thousands of dollars for a Juneteenth tour? Why? I mean, that's a foundational Black American holiday, which we made it into a holiday. We didn't even ask for it to be nationally recognized by the United States government. I live in Texas. I've been living in Houston, Texas since 1993. We never needed permission from the United States government to celebrate Juneteenth, and we celebrated Juneteenth every year here in Houston, and we celebrated Juneteenth every year in Galveston, where the whole holiday, where the Juneteenth holiday, where its origin place, Galveston, Texas. You see what I'm saying? Why is Ghana? Let's just use the real words. I want to be real today. Why are they stealing our culture and our holidays, bringing it to Ghana, repackaging it, and reselling it to us? Why? Why are they doing that? Why is the Ghanaian president doing that? Before we get into this whole just slavery thing, let's just talk about some of the reasons why I think they are doing that. I think that the Democratic Party is working very closely with Ghana with this whole year of abode, telling Black Americans to come home and stuff like that. If it was really our home, then why can't we just come? Why can't we just come home? Why do we have to go through the immigration process and fill out, get a visa, dual citizenship, and all of this stuff? Why do we have to go through all of this red tape? And then why is it a lot easier for celebrities to get their dual citizenship than it is for just regular people? That's what I want to know. But my opinion, what I think it is the Democratic Party is working very close with the Ghanaian government. Because I think it's a ploy to try to get us to go back to Africa, to go to Africa. I'm not going to say go back, because our people have been here on this land before this landmass became the United States of America. Black people have been on this land. You can look up old text from Christopher Columbus and things like that, and you can see in their memoirs that they saw black-skinned people here on this land. What's that? Ill Will said, you want to go back? Do I want to go back? I mean, I don't know what I'll be going back to, because my family and my ancestors are here. But do I want to go back? Yeah, sure. I don't mind going to Africa to visit. But that's the thing. I will go and visit. I will go and put some money into the economy and things like that. But then I'm going to bring my arse right back here to the United States. Okay, so do I want to go and live in Africa? No, I do not. Absolutely not. Okay. So I think that the Democratic Party is working close with the Ghanaian government to try to convince us to leave our ancestral homeland, which is here, the United States, and go back and go move to Ghana. I think that's what it was. I thought Shaq was live for a moment. Yeah, I get that a lot. It's all good. You know, I'm trying to get that Shaq money though. But yeah, so it's an issue. I think it's an issue, and I think that, like I said, the Democratic Party is trying to work in conjunction with the Ghanaian government to try to convince us to go to Ghana in large numbers, and it's just not working. It's just not working. Invite some people to follow me. Follow me, family. Also, you subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Rebellious Rhymer Podcast on YouTube. Okay, I do videos here on TikTok, maybe once a week, something like that. I try to upload videos on my Rebellious Rhymer Podcast page, YouTube channel, once a week as well. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but because I'm busy, I work, I'm out here handling business. So, but yeah, that's what I think it is. I think that, yeah, like I said, I think they're working closely, trying to get us, because they are losing, the Democratic Party is losing the black vote. So I feel that they want to replace us with immigrants so they can replace our vote. So what better way to do that than to try to convince us to leave the country and move to Ghana? You have so many people out here who are trying to convince us to do that. And I just don't think it's a good idea. Honestly, I don't. If you want to go to Ghana or any other part of Africa and do some business, well, then that's on you. Just try not to get scammed. All right? Try not to get scammed. But do dual business with African nations. I don't have an issue with that. I do have an issue with trying to be finessed into moving to Africa, moving to Ghana, and trying to finesse us into doing so. Obviously it's not working, because African Americans, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans are not moving to Africa in large numbers like they want us to. Those ancestors followed that Ghanaian president back to Ghana and hit Ghana with that flood. Blame your president for that. I don't wish death or hardship on nobody. I don't wish death or hardship on nobody. But wrong is wrong. Foundational Black Americans see the play from a mile away. The Ghanaian president is trying to come here, destiny swap with us, claim our reparations, and try to get the reparations for themselves and for Ghana. And let's just say it's successful, and the Ghanaian president, the Ghanaian government, receives reparations for the transatlantic slave trade. What do you think is going to happen with that money? What do you think is going to happen with it? Do you think that the Ghanaian president is going to use that money to make Ghana a better place? Do you think they're going to use that money and to spread the wealth to the people so the people can have something, so the people can get themselves together? Or you think they're going to just use that money like most corrupt African leaders do when they get money from these other nations? They hoard it for themselves. They buy themselves big houses and cars. And half of the time, these people aren't even living in Africa, these African leaders. They're not living in Africa. They're living in Great Britain. They're living in European nations. They use Africa as their graveyard when they're done, when they're dead, when they pass away, when they're dead and gone. Then they'll be buried in Africa. But they go to school everywhere else except Africa. They live everywhere else except Africa. You think they're going to take that money and do right by the African people? By the Ghanaian people? No, we already see some of what they want to do. They want to try to rebuild and renovate Elmina Castle. They want to try to renovate Elmina Castle. which to me, like, yeah, I would like to visit Elmina Castle one day, but it's not at the top of my list. I ain't gonna even lie to you. They charge Black Americans more to get into the castle in the first place. And why? So you can remind me of how you sold my ancestors? No, thank you. No, thank you. And then I pay you so you can show me how you did my ancestors, and then come to the United States and try to petition for our reparations claim that you know has nothing to do with you is very offensive. It's very offensive. But let's get into some of this slavery, because I mean it was so much going on, man. I'm talking about. Let's start with Ghana. Let's start with Ghana. Child slavery in Ghana today. There's child slavery going on today in Ghana, and there's pretty much nothing being done about it. The government response rate is at about 36%.
Minhu nyama boni bebree wɔ nsu no do. Minhu sɛ ne dwane ba mɛkɔ nsuo so. Ɔmo a ɔmo ne dwane na ɔmo mu. Misro sɛ mihu saa. Misha sɛ yɛ adwuma wɔ nsu no na membɔ ɔmɔden na ɔboro wɔ nsu. Yɛ adwuma wɔ nsu no fi anapa kɔsi anwummere. Yɛngye yɛn ho. Ɛyɛ di ma nkɔdaa. Yeah, I'm going to say, Yanni. Me pesa many a juma work insurance. Emre say a drummer make a semi bread, but it was semi economic yajuma. A quan neble, sensation now. I'm training there. No, I if you don't remember me, no, my baby is
Back in the 17 and 1800s, when Ghana was known as the Gold Coast. Let's talk about the Gold Coast, okay? All right. A lot of these kings were warring with different tribes, capturing the people, and selling them in the European slave trade. And before they were selling them in the European slave trade, they were selling them in the Arab slave trade, the sub-Saharan African slave trade. Okay? So what are some of the kings and some of the tribes that were very active in the transatlantic slave trade? We're going to talk about some of that. Okay? The Ashanti Empire. Y'all can take notes, man. Get your pen and pencil, take some notes, get some paper, take some notes. The Ashanti Empire, okay? The Ashanti had a long tradition of domestic servitude, but with their arrival of Europeans, the trade of enslaved people displaced gold as the primary commodity for sale. Okay? So they were selling people more than they were selling gold. Or weren't selling gold at all. I mean, the people became the gold. You get what I'm saying? The people became the gold. Okay, they became worth more than gold. Okay, The wealth generation from selling slaves was used to purchase European goods, especially firearms, which allowed the Asante to maintain a military superiority and capture more people for the slave trade. Okay, so they sold people, they sold the opposite tribes members to the Europeans for more weapons so they can capture more African slaves, people that's possibly their cousins. You know what I'm saying? They got more weapons so they can capture more people. You have something like similar to that going on right now. The Ghanaian government has just inked a defense deal with the European Union, a defense deal with the European Union. So have they learned their lesson? Have they learned their lesson? And these are the people that are supposed to be our brothers. These are the people that we're supposed to be working with and building some type of Pan-Africanism with. I don't think so. I don't think so, man. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So just like they were doing deals and they get the crappy end of the stick at the end of the day with the Europeans back then, they're doing deals with the Europeans today. And guess who's going to get the crappy end of the stick? I think we can all guess that. I think we can all guess that, man. Yeah, they sold slaves for things like firearms, salt, mirrors, just stuff like that, man. Gunpowder. These are the type of things that these African kings were selling people for. They had a big major role. They played a big major role in the transatlantic slave trade. Why are they coming here trying to petition for reparations when they got all this dirty paperwork? I don't get it. Clean your own house first. And I'm not even talking about the slavery in the past. The past is the past, man. But there's still an abundant amount of slavery still happening till this day. And little to nothing is being done about it. I don't even hear people talk about it. I don't even hear people talking about it, man. I don't hear Pan-Africans saying nothing about it. Africans that come here and build a life off of the sweat and of our labor, you don't hear them talk about it either. You don't hear them talk about it either. Okay, let's talk about Osei Tutu, if I'm spelling his name right. Osei Tutu. Osei Tutu, he founded the empire of Ashanti and was heavy into the slave trade. Okay, he expanded his territory through battles with neighboring states like the Dinkyira tribe. Okay, he was battling with the Dinkyira tribe. Correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. He ruled from 1680 to 1717. Okay, so that was his rule. You said you heard of him, OG Keys? Yeah, man. Yeah, this dude has sold so many slaves. He was the founder of this Ashanti tribe and this Ashanti empire. Opoku Ware came after a dude named Opoku Ware. He ruled from 1720 to 1750. Okay, Opoku Ware basically was the predecessor of Osei Tutu. Okay, and I'm going to be showing pictures and all of that stuff. I can't show them now, but like if you check out the edited version on the Rebellious Rhymer podcast, I'll have all the information up. I'll post all the information up. Don't forget to share this podcast, family. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Throw your hearts up here and your gifts. It's never demanded, but it's always appreciated as far as the gifts. Let's get those hearts up. Let's get those likes up. Am I cooking? I appreciate the follow. OG Keys, I appreciate the follow. If I'm cooking, put a 1 in the chat. If y'all think I'm cooking, if you want me to continue, put a 1 in the chat. Or if you want me to just hang it up, you don't want to hear no more, and I can do that too. But put a 1 in the chat if you think I'm cooking right now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So let's go ahead and get back to this history, family. You know, and the Asante tribe, and Asantes wasn't the only tribe capturing slaves either. Like I said, you had the Dinkyira tribe, you had the Fonte tribe. All of these people were warring against each other in the Gold Coast, which is now known as Ghana. Okay, so you can look this stuff up for yourself, family. I mean, like I said, this African slavery rabbit hole goes so damn deep. It goes so deep. Appreciate the follow. I don't see your name, but I appreciate the follow, brother. Um, let's talk about Mali. We're moving from Ghana to Mali, and there's a lot of modern day slavery going on in Ghana right now till this day. There's also modern day slavery going on in Mali till this day, right now, 2026. Modern day slavery. Okay, let's talk about the Mali slavery empire. Okay. The Mali slavery was a major part of the Mali empire's economy and social structure for the 13th, from the 13th to the 17th century. The Sundata Keita, the empire, that was the empire's founder's name. Okay, the Mali Empire was founded by Sundata Keita. Okay, the empire's founder, under his rule, Mali became a major center for trans-Saharan trade, which included gold, salt, and slaves from conquered territories like the Soso Kingdom. Okay, like the Soso Kingdom. So slavery was just, I mean, it's like I said, it's hard to find an African nation that wasn't practicing slavery. I mean, it was so prevalent in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. Until this day, slavery is still being passed. I mean, slavery is still happening, and little to nothing is being done about it. Like I said, there's a 38% response rate to this modern day slavery. Mansa Musa. I know y'all heard of Mansa Musa, right? Probably one of the richest men ever in history. He would roam the streets and throw gold out on the streets. He had visited Egypt and was throwing gold out in the streets. Just the man with the gold. Like, this dude was probably, like I say, the richest man in the world. Huge, excuse me, yeah, that's my phone. Huge slave trader. Huge slave trader, Mansa Musa. The ruler of the 14th century Mali Empire was a significant participant in the trans-Saharan slave trade. So he sold a lot of slaves to the Arabs because he was a Muslim himself. The trans-Saharan slave trade, with roughly 12 to 14,000 enslaved people accompanying him on a lavish Hajj to Mecca in 1300s, in 1324 to be specific. He had 12 to 1,400 slaves accompanying him in a lavish caravan to the Hajj in Mecca. Okay, man. I mean, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. Mali's widespread issue characterized by a unique system of descent-based hereditary slavery alongside contemporary forms like forced labor and child soldiering. So that's happening all over Africa. So you see the child soldiers, the little kids with machine guns. A lot of those little kids are slaves, man. They've been coerced or bred into that lifestyle. Okay. Yeah, man, the descent-based slavery is basically the same practices that the Europeans used to do to us, where you are a descendant of a slave, so therefore you are born into slavery. That was practiced in Africa. That was practiced in the Mali Empire. Okay? Here's some key forms of modern-day slavery. All right, baby girl. here are some key forms of modern day slavery in Mali, okay? Descent-based slavery, all right? That's a century-old system that involves individuals being born into slavery based on their ancestry. Estimated affect up to 800,000 people, with 200,000 living under direct control of masters. Okay, so these people had up to 800,000 slaves in the during the Mali Empire, and that was during that time. Here's some of the ways that they were practicing slavery: forced labor. Okay, prevalent in artisanal gold mining. Okay, the artisanal gold mining. Okay, they had child slaves mining for gold. Domestic work and agricultural, especially with rice and things like that. They were heavy on the rice production. They used a heavy slave labor for that. Child exploitation. Okay, you still have that going on today, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. But the child exploitation. Child soldiers recruited by armed groups and children forced into begging. Okay, you have a lot of kids that are forced into begging networks. Okay, that's ran by some dude. Some dude is kidnapping kids and making them go out in the streets and beg for them. Okay, you have begging networks that's still happening till this day. Now there was a new penal code in Mali in the year 2024. It was a landmark move by the Malian government, adopted a new penal code that criminalized hereditary slavery. Okay, so there was an effort in 2024 to put a halt to this slavery, modern day, which was still happening, by the way, in Mali in 2024. Okay, they put up a penal code. But despite the new laws, enforcement remains a challenge. Those who resist their status as a slave could face violence, isolation, or being barred from basic services like water and healthcare. You see what I'm saying? African presidents have no business coming to the United States and to the UN petitioning for reparations for Black Americans. You have your own issues in your own country that you need to, is misplaced efforts, okay, and misplaced priorities to try to come and try to get a cash grab from the United States government and try to jump in front of Black Americans' reparations claim. We're just not going to let that happen, okay? You have to clean up your own house first. You have to clean up your own house, period. There is no first. There are no reparations for you here in the United States from the United States government, just in case any other African president want to try to come here and try to pull that same mess. You have a history of slavery in your own country, past tense, present tense. Right now, you still have a history of slavery going on. Deal with that problem. Deal with that problem, okay? Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Rebellious Rhymer Podcast on YouTube. Also, you can don't forget to like and share this video. Put your hearts on the screen, family. And your gifts are appreciated. Never a requirement, but it's always appreciated. You know what I'm saying? And if you're just tuning in, you are tuning in to another episode of the Rebellious Rhymer Podcast. Black conservatism without the buck dancing. Yes, sir. Let's move on. We're going to move on from Mali, okay? Let's talk about Nigeria and the Nigerian slave trade. Okay, the Nigerian slavery empire. Let's talk about the Oyo Empire. One of the most powerful Yoruba states was the Oyo Empire. They became heavily involved in the 18th century slavery. They used enslaved laborers on royal farms and sold surplus captives to European merchants on the coast. So, slavery is still happening till this day in Nigeria. Okay, let me get my notes together. Let's talk about the Kingdom of Bani, okay? The coastal city-state in the Niger Delta was a major hub for the trade of the 19th century king of Bani, famously resisted a British abolition effort, stating that the trade was ordained by God. Okay, so there was a king during the Bani, during the 19th century, with the Bani, Bonny kingdom, okay? He actively fought against a abolitionist movement, okay? What was it, British? Yes, a British abolitionist movement. So abolitionist means they're trying to stop slavery. So he actively fought against a group of British soldiers who were trying to stop slavery in Ghana, and he fought against it, saying that him enslaving other Africans was ordained by God. That's the fam back there doing all kinds of stuff. Baby girl dropping bowls everywhere. Ain't that right, baby girl? Ow. I know, ow. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, the king during the 19th century, Bonny kingdom, he fought against the abolitionist British. You know what I'm saying? The Canaan kingdom, okay? The Bornu Empire, okay? Bornu, Bornu Empire, okay? In the northern Nigeria, this empire traded captives, often taken during jihads against neighboring groups, for horses and other goods from North Africa. So this group of people sold slaves for horses and things like that. Let's talk about Madam Iferoy Tinbu. That's a mouthful. So y'all can say it with me. Madam Ifunroy Tinubu. Madam Ifunroy Tinubu, okay? A powerful female aristocrat and a merchant in Lagos. So she lived in Lagos, Nigeria, okay? She was a major slave trader who collaborated with the British. Okay, so y'all can look her up. Madam Ifunroy Tinubu. Okay, she was heavily involved in the slave trade as well in Nigeria. Okay, so we're gonna, you know what? I can be talking all day about slavery in the past in Africa because the rabbit hole goes so deep. But my main focus, hold on one second. All right, forgive me for that. I'm back. I am back. So we were talking about modern day slavery that's happening right now in Nigeria. We're talking about, again, forced begging, all right? Children in some northern regions are coerced into begging on the streets by handlers. Okay, so these, like I said before, these children are being found, kidnapped or whatever, and forced into a life of begging for their owners, for their masters, whoever owned them. Okay, baby factories. Now this one kind of threw me, like I was almost ready to put the damn information down. Okay, because they have something called baby factories. And this is what the baby factories is, family. Baby factories is largely unique to Nigeria, okay? So the baby factories are illegal clinics or maternity homes where women and girls are held captive, often forcibly impregnated, okay? They're forcibly impregnated and are forced to give birth to babies that are later sold.
This video shows the moment Nigerian police officers rescued 23 pregnant girls and 4 babies from a baby factory in Umuahia Imo State in eastern Nigeria. It happened last Friday. They're now being looked after in a care home run by the state. One of the girls was 19-year-old Sarah, not her real name. She was lured into the factory by a lady who said she owned a home for pregnant teenagers. But when she got there, the lady demanded to buy Sarah's baby for $600.
They told me some amount of money that was going to be paid to my account. And I accepted it, and that was how I entered into it. I was really afraid and I was scared. It's really shameful to go home like this, and my parents looking at me, they surely skinned me alive. And instead of me aborting it, I was willing to give it to people that don't have.
Sarah was held against her will in the factory.
Some tried taking their lives, some tried escaping. Along the line, they got beaten up. So I was among the ones who tried to escape, but there was no way.
This is where the pregnant girls were kept. At the front of the compound, there's a small mineral water factory that the baby factory owner was using as a front so that people wouldn't become suspicious about what was going on here. And the pregnant girls, well, they were crammed into this tiny building at the back in small rooms.
A 23-year-old man and an elderly security guard were found living in the compound with the girls. They're believed to have impregnated the girls several times over. They're both in police custody. 10 minutes away, the factory owner, known as Madam 1000, owned this hospital. The pregnant girls were brought here to deliver the babies. Some of the girls and babies died during childbirth here. Baby trafficking cases have been found in this region before, but this is the first time a baby factory has been discovered in Imo State. The state governor puts the bust down to tough new adoption laws.
Every child adoption or any motherless baby home registration must have the consent of the governor. This must have led to why this has become bad business for all those who must have been practicing this kind of ugly thing.
Sarah is grateful to the police officers that rescued her.
I feel very happy. I'm very happy, at least for the safety and for their protection, because if not for them, I don't know what have happened.
Yvonne Dege, Al Jazeera, Umuaka, Imo State, Nigeria.
All right, so when you see these celebrities, they getting all these children from Africa, and they're buying kids from here, buying kids from there. You notice in the foundational Black American community, you can't just come to our community and buy no damn kid, family. That's just not how it works with us. You can't do that. You can't come to the Black American community and try to find a child for nefarious activities, if you get my drift. You can't do that in our community. But you can go to Nigeria and you can buy a kid, man. And a lot of times when these kids are being purchased, it's for just evil reasons. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, so these baby factories in Nigeria, like I said, they're illegal clinics and maternity homes. Forcible pregnancy, women are kidnapped and forcibly impregnated, and their babies are sold to childless couples. Often sums between the children are sold for sums between $2,500 and $10,000. Sometimes for more sinister purposes like organ harvesting or ritual killings. So some of these kids are sold for organ harvesting. Some of these kids are sold for ritual killings. You hear stories about, people like the Epsteins of the world and people like that. These people doing human sacrifices and stuff like that. It'll be so easy for them to go and buy a kid and use that kid as a human sacrifice. It'll be so easy for a black market medical group or people, or just not even, don't have to be medical, just some black market organ pirate. It'd be easy for some black market organ harvesting pirate to purchase a kid from one of these orphanages, unalive him and steal his organs and sell them. It'd be so simple to do that. Okay? Now, authorities have shut down at least 200 of these illegal facilities disguised as orphanages or religious centers, right? But there's so many more out there. And like I said, the effort to shut these facilities down is not a major issue. Let me fix this real quick. it's not a major issue. Okay, like I said, there's a 36% response rate, and that's all throughout Africa. And you have laws and stuff that they're passing today to try to slow down the slave trade in today's Africa. But it's just not enough. And it's still happening. You have slaves being sold in Libya. You have slaves being sold all throughout the Middle East. There's a video of a woman, full hijab, Arabic woman, full hijab. She got slaves right there in her little apartment that she's selling them for like $80 a piece. It's crazy. Some of that modern day slavery worked itself here into the United States. I don't know if y'all remember this story, but there's a story that happened right here in Houston, Texas, Katy to be exact. And this happened in around 2016. In 2016, there was a Nigerian couple living in Katy, Texas. They were arrested and later convicted for the forced labor of an enslaved Nigerian woman who served as their nanny for over 2 years.
And that breaking news coming as we've just learned that the couple accused of holding their nanny hostage for years has been granted bond and will be released from jail. Prosecutors say the abuse happened at the couple's home in Katy, where they say the nanny was abused and not paid for her work. And that woman has now been rescued from what is being called a human trafficking situation.
Again, the big development today, the couple accused of mistreating her has been granted bond. This all happened while prosecutors say the victim was taking care of the couple's children. They say the nanny was forced to work long hours in very harsh conditions. And today we learned even more about what allegedly happened inside of that Katy house. Channel 2's Ryan Korsgaard is live downtown.
Hey, Ryan, what exactly did we find out from today's hearings?
Well, the brand new information we just found out, the husband will be released on bond. Prosecutors had said that he was a flight risk. They were afraid he might go back to Nigeria. The judge did not agree. Sandra Nosobundu and her husband, Chudi Nosobundu, walked into federal court. Here they are in handcuffs. They're accused of imprisoning a woman from Nigeria for more than 2 years after hiring her as a nanny. They were arrested and accused of human trafficking.
Our Constitution protects all persons, not just citizens, all persons. The message should be that if you're on our soil, our Constitution is going to protect you, and we, as prosecutors, are going to make sure that your rights are protected.
Court documents show the woman worked nearly 20 hours a day here inside the family's home in a gated neighborhood in Katy, where prosecutors say the woman was mentally and physically abused, was refused access to a phone, and was only allowed outside twice a day to walk the couple's children as an unpaid nanny. Now the two face 4 federal charges related to forced labor after allegedly promising payment of $100 a month, then paying nothing.
The judge specifically stated that they're not allowed to talk about the case with each other or any other potential witnesses or victims.
No comment.
The attorney for Sandra Nosobundu said nothing outside court after the judge released her client on bond. Chudi Nosobundu is also free as long as he shows up for all hearings. We have more information on the conditions of their release. We know they have to surrender their passports. They cannot leave the area, and they have to show up for court. We're live downtown. Ryan Korsgaard, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
And this happens quite often. They brought this nanny in from Nigeria. This happened in Houston, Texas. Okay, recently, this 2016. They brought this woman in from Nigeria to hire her as their nanny. They promised to pay her $100 a month, which is slave labor within itself. Instead of giving this woman $100, now I'm being flagged. Okay, this is what I'm talking about with TikTok. I'm talking straight up facts. TikTok, I'm talking facts. I'm talking about things that happen, that's happening now, that I could pull up news clippings of these things, so that there's no false information or anything like that with this damn array of flags. But anyways, so this nanny was living with this couple for over 2 years. They promised her $100 a month. They never gave it to her. They were mentally and physically abusing her. They was beating on her. They threatened to kill her if she told anybody, they threatened to unalive her. Let me watch my language. If she threatened to leave or to tell somebody. So they would let her out the house twice a day to walk the children, to take their children for a walk. Other than that, she stayed in the house. She couldn't be near no telephones, none of that stuff. So, and these people were eventually, they were acquitted, by the way. And you know, they didn't want them to be a flight risk, but the judge didn't agree with that, and they let them be acquitted. It is what it is, but there's a lot of stories like this that's happening right here in America. Right here in America, they're bringing that type of debauchery and bringing it here to the States. Sometimes you go to these braiding shops, family, and you got 4 or 5 people working on your woman's hair or whatever. Sometimes you better stop and ask them people, like, are you okay? Like, you want to give me a sign or something? Are you being enslaved? Because some of these people be slaves and you don't even know it. Because how are they going to afford to pay 5 or 6 people to braid one person's hair? These people be working under duress sometimes. And you can look this up, family. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up. You can look this stuff up for yourself, man. Modern day slavery is happening today in America and abroad. The same way that it was happening back in the 1700s during the transatlantic slave trade and during the trans-Saharan slave trade. So this message basically, and you know, the point of this video is to say this. Don't no African leaders need to come to this country and to the UN and try to petition for reparations no more. Don't do that. Don't do that, family. Y'all are the last people that need to be coming here trying to petition for some reparations. You cannot be the victim and the perpetrator at the same damn time. You cannot. You cannot. Clean up your own house. Clean up your own house first before you come here and trying to finesse our reparations claim, which is a righteous claim. We are the people who suffered under Jim Crow laws. Black Americans, FBAs. Yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate it if y'all like my shirt. Yeah, I got this shirt from Egypt, you know, when we visited Cairo. So yeah, definitely much appreciated. That's coming from the Pharaoh himself. So modern day slavery is still happening till this day. It needs to be dealt with. Go to the UN and petition on how you can deal with modern day slavery in Africa right now. Instead of worrying about what's going on with American politics and Black Americans, FBA's reparations claim. Go and deal with your own house first before you try to come and wipe your feet off on ours. Sure. It should be in the drawer somewhere. Deal with your own issues first, family, before you try to come and deal with ours. All right? We don't need you coming here petitioning for our reparations. We don't need you coming in here. Yes, we all recognize that the transatlantic slave trade was the worst atrocity in American history. I can agree with that. But we don't need you speaking for us. They already know this. Foundational Black Americans have already been saying this for decades now. We don't need you speaking for us because we see the finesse behind it. You speaking for us is going to equal trying to represent us. You trying to represent us is going to equal you trying to petition for reparations for you, for the Ghanaian government, not for us. Let's say the Ghanaian government do receive these reparations. Do you think they're going to give one dime to the foundational Black Americans? Hell no, I don't think so. So I also want to talk about what I feel the plan or the goal is, okay? What the plan or the goal is. And y'all want to just let me see those hearts, family. Like and share this podcast. You know, I might send some random invites. If anybody want to come in and add to this, they can add to this conversation. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that at all. But yes, I believe that the Ghanaian president it was trying to finesse his way up on the Black Americans' reparations claim. And I think the Democratic Party is helping him with that. They're helping with this this right to abode. This is the same trickery that they tried to do in the 1800s. What's that? The early 1800s, early 1900s, when they tried to convince us to move to Liberia. This is not the first time that this has happened, family. This has happened before. We rejected it then, and we're definitely rejecting it now. We are delineating. We do not want to be associated with baby factories in Nigeria. We do not want to be associated with forced begging from little kids. We do not want to be associated with grape festivals in Nigeria. We do not want to be associated with flying Nigerian nannies in and holding them against their will and forcing labor on them and beating and abusing them and making them work for free for over 2 years. We don't want to be associated with that. All right? So the lineation is real. The FBA lineage is more prevalent today than it has ever been. We are making moves. We are on the rise. A lot of people have an issue with this FBA delineation movement. The movement is delineation. FBA is just the lineage. It's just who we are. It's just who you are, whether you recognize it or not, whether you know it or not, it's who you are. If you don't want to classify yourself as that, that's on you. But that's all FBA is your lineage that goes back to the transatlantic slave trade here in this country. That's what it is. That's all it is. We are delineating ourselves from all of that evil that's going on, all of that. All of the baby factories and the modern day slavery and the child soldiers and the kidnapping of children, unaliving them and selling them. We disassociate ourselves, the underage marriages, we disassociate ourselves from all of that. From all of that. We don't get down like that. We're foundational Black Americans. We don't get down like that. We don't support people who support that. We wholeheartedly do not support that. Hopefully Ghana is cleaning themselves up after this major flood that leveled Ghana. You know, I wish you well on that. Take care of yourselves, family. You know, but you don't need to be coming here trying to petition for Black Americans' reparations. We're not having that. The ancestors are not having it. If anybody comes to this country and get reparations for us, it's going to be a problem. Things will be turned upside down, inside out. And that's all that I can say about that. But yo, family, it's been real. You have tuned into another episode of the Rebellious Rhymer Podcast. Black conservatism without the buck dancing. And yo, just remember, the revolution starts with you, all right? I'm out.